Hi, it's Maggie the Irish Gypsy here to bring you your April 2020 mid-month general readings. Thanks for joining us here today. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and as sane as possible. I know everything's changing so quickly these days, but I appreciate everyone taking the time to tune in today. And those of you who follow, like, share, subscribe, and donate to this channel, thank you so much. So, this reading is for the air sign of Libra for the last half of April 2020. So that's Libra Sun, Libra Moon, Libra Rising if your Venus is in Libra, or if you're cross watching for a Libran as well. General readings always resonate a little differently for everyone. So watch all of your signs if you know them and if you can, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, etc. Can always provide additional helpful clarification. If any of these readings do resonate with you and you'd like to take a deeper look at something or reach out for a personal reading or information on a personal reading, you can click on the description link below. You can click on that little arrow that pulls down information, and you'll see a little bit more info and my contact details. You can email me directly at Maggie, the number one McGuire at gmail.com. I'd be delighted to work with you. I do offer a wide variety of different types of readings, and I can usually respond to your inquiries within the same day. And scheduling is pretty good too. I'm pretty diligent at working with your schedule in mind. I do readings full time, it's all that I do. So I try to do that in a pretty timely fashion and setting up readings with you or for you. Okay. All right, Libra, let's see what the last half of April has in store for you. Let's jump right into this reading. And for those of you who need to know or want to know, I am using the Legacy of the Divine Tarot by artist Ciro Marchetti. So Libra, we begin with the Five of Swords, followed by the Moon. We have Death, Endings and Transformations, followed by the Lovers. From the bottom of the deck, overall energy for the last half of April is the Hanging Man. Well, Libra looks like a potentially pretty profound time for a lot of you. Out of 5 cards, we have 4 of them that are major arcana cards. So it's pretty significant and important time for you, potentially. And your overall energy is the Hanged Man for the last half of April. And I have to say, with all the readings I've been doing lately, if there's just a few cards that I could pull for the world in general that I've been getting, it's the Hanging Man, the Hermit, the Tower card, Death and Transformation, of course. So your energy for the last half of April is the Hanging Man. So not perhaps taking action on something right now because things are still playing out. I always feel the Hanging Man is a fairly transitional energy card. It can represent feeling like you're in stasis and limbo, but the reason you are is because one, you're watching something play out. Perhaps you don't have all the information or details yet. Things are still moving, things are still in process. You are choosing at this time not to take action on something because you're watching things still play out and you may not be sure of what the appropriate action is. And while you're hanging here, even though it is perhaps a bit of a different perspective, you can gain something by looking at something from a different perspective while you're hanging upside down. Some of you, it just might mean that, many of us, because of the shelter in place, are kind of feeling this way right now. We're just kind of hanging there, getting new bits of information and perspectives, watching things play out, but yet feeling like we're taking no personal action of our own. It's a card I've pulled so many, many times lately. The Hanging Man, the Hermit, the Four of Swords, the Tower. Okay, so there's that energy for you over the last half of April. Now we have the Five of Swords with the Moon. Fives can often represent conflict, opportunities for change. Here, the Five of Swords represents a conflict which has perhaps come to an end, a victory which has been won, although it's been a very difficult victory. You can see that this man has just finished a battle completion of some kind. He's walking away from it. You can see all the fire and the smoke in the background. He has all these swords kind of hanging around him on his belt. He's holding his own aloft in victory. These are weapons that he has gathered up from his enemies or opponents or whatever, whatever it was that has been challenging him. It's a difficult victory, tired, worn out, exhausted. And sometimes the Five of Swords represents something that you've come through that's been very difficult. And the cost sometimes is personal relationships. You have had to leave something behind because this is a difficult victory. It's a victory which at the time it may not feel like a victory. I mean, the Five of Swords in all the decks I have, it can represent winning at all costs, regardless of what it costs you, regardless of what you have to burn to the ground behind you, the people you have to leave behind. Sometimes that's not a good thing, always feeling like you have to win at all costs or have the last word. But sometimes it represents that it's a victory which was important for you to win, whether that's an actual competition or whether it was breaking a difficult cycle, relationship, path, etc. And at the time, it might not feel like a victory because everything's smoking and in ruins behind you, but you're actually on a better path. A lot of times, the accompanying question to the Five of Swords, Libra, is it worth it? Was it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth continuing this fight? And I feel like that is something that you're contemplating right now. So it might be something you're still in process of, or something you may have just recently finished. Um, because what clarifies it is the moon, which doesn't really clarify as much as, say, the sun does. The moon sheds light just like the sun does, but it's a different kind of light. Under the light of the moon, things can be very shadowy. There's still a lot of shadows and hidden corners and nooks and crannies, and you don't know what's in there. It can also represent deep-seated fears we have that get distorted, meaning, my analogy for the moon sometimes in terms of unrealistic fears is the source of your concerns or fears might be valid, but the moon can come out when, because there's so much still unknown, because you're still kind of watching and waiting things play out here, it can represent like the tree that's in your backyard that's just this gnarly old tree. And then under the light of the sun, you can see exactly what it is. But under the light of the moon, it might look like a bear or a monster or something like that. So the moon can represent fears which become distorted because of not enough information or lack of information. The moon, I think, here represents a lack of clarity. Things are kind of fuzzy and cloudy. And what might be stirring might be some deep sense, a deep sense of spirituality or fears or lack of clarity as to whether something, perhaps a conflict or something that you're involved in, is worth continuing. And what it actually is, I mean, it's a general reading, so it could be anything. Um, with so many major arcana cards here, this could be relationship, it could be work, it could be projects, it could be different types of relationships. What I'm feeling here, Libra, for a lot of you is that you're considering whether or not the fight is worth continuing, or whether the cost of winning, whatever that is for you, is worth it for you, or if you should just abandon it and leave. I feel like at least around the middle of the month, many of you haven't quite made up your mind yet, or at least for the last half of the month, because you're still watching things play out, not exactly taking action yet. However, we do have towards the end of April, we have Death and the Lovers here. So some of you may be making the decision that something needs to end, or at the very least, it needs to be completely and utterly transformed in order for you to continue it. But for some of you, it's an ending. It's sitting right next to the Five of Swords. Death represents a final clearing out so that transformation can occur. Birth follows death, beginnings follow endings. That's how the cycle works. Decisions about endings, because what's clarifying death is the Lovers. So for a lot of you, this may be about a relationship. It may be about either a romantic relationship or a relationship where there's a lot of heat and passion and kinetic activity. There's no lack of heat here in the Lovers versus the Two of Cups. This is a card that represents a union that has its basis in fire and passion and a lot of action. The Lovers also can represent needing to make a decision, either about a primary relationship or make a decision that's going to significantly impact or affect a primary relationship. And it's about endings. I mean, for some of you, it might be that you make the decision to end something by or at towards the end of April. But to me, this feels like a lot of you are still in kind of the decision making process. You're not really sure. I mean, again, the overall energy is watching things play out, not taking action just yet. But some of you may towards the end of the month. This is kind of similar to your sister sign, Gemini. It's a bit similar. Uh, it's actually kind of similar to Scorpios too. I know a lot of us are going through a lot of deep contemplative phases right now. Things that used to seem important to us before are not seeming as important, or a lot of us, our priorities are shifting. Perhaps we're making the decision, which happens a lot in times of fear and anxiety and stress. You know, I don't know why I've been waiting on doing this. I really need to do something that I feel more happy with or be with someone I feel more fulfilled with. So, sometimes during periods of great catastrophe and strife, what comes out afterwards is a commitment to ourselves to do what we have not been doing before, procrastinating on before. So that may be the case for some of you here as well. But again, I get the sense that many of you are not making the decision till at least the end of April. Let's clarify this hanging man if we can. The two of coins. So yes, juggling, trying to make up your mind between one thing and the other, which is usually whether to continue investing in something or to call it done. Something to think about too, if this is a relationship, a personal relationship. I mean, the Five of Swords would also imply that this relationship has a fair amount of conflict in it, and what you're considering is, I'm tired of this conflict. I want this conflict to come to an end, and perhaps in doing that, I need to make the decision to actually bring it to an end, because perhaps that's the only way this conflict is going to end. Perhaps it's a relationship or situation that has a lot of conflict in it, and you just want it to end. But still thinking, still thinking. Again, the hanging man, the two of coins, the moon, not really certain yet. Let's pull an advice card for Libra. What's the best way for Libra to navigate through this energy, at least for the last half of April? We have the Ten of Coins, and right behind it is the Seven of Swords. Interesting. This is pretty similar to, well, somewhat similar to Gemini's. You may want to pop over and watch Gemini's. So the advice is Ten of Coins. This is about long-term stability and security. So this is focusing basically, at least for the last half of April, Libra, this is about focusing on what makes you feel safe, stable, and secure, particularly in the physical structure of your day-to-day life, because coins, or pentacles as it's known in other decks, is governed by the element of earth. And this is about the things in the physical day-to-day structure of our life that makes us feel safe, solid, stable: money, finance, property, real estate, assets, long-term relationships. And the Seven of Swords, which is interesting because Gemini got this as well. I think it was Gemini. This is a card of concealment, sometimes deception, lies, thievery, but it's a card of keeping things secret, keeping things hidden, veiled, because you have a goal to accomplish. Now, it could be that for some of you, this is like a relationship, like a marriage, or you live together, or you have your finances entangled, or in fact, it might be a job or career path that you want to leave and you feel like maybe it's over because it's just so much of a struggle. If you make the decision to leave, um, for the time being, you need to keep that to yourself, which was a similar theme to what came out of Gemini's reading as well. It's a card of, for the time being, keeping things to yourself because you need to focus on your own stability right now. And any decisions or any actions or planning you need to do, you need to keep in mind that you need to keep an eye on your own, and it might even be financial and material security as well. So now is not the time to be too overt, too blatant with what's going on inside of you. Um, that might be more for the people who have already made the decision. um, I guess an analogy might be, currently working a job or on a career path that you maybe during this time you've decided, this just isn't for me, and I think I really need to make the decision to leave or exit somewhere else. But of course you don't want to tell your current work or current, job environment that you in fact want to leave, because that can present its own challenges and sticky situations, because you still have to be there for a time being. So it can be that for job or career path. It might be that for, relationships. Now is not the time, it feels like, um, to announce to the world at large what you're thinking and feeling or planning on right now, because you need to focus on your own present day to day security, whether that's financial and material or emotional or a combination of both. For those of you who are leaning heavily towards one decision or in fact have already made the decision, it looks like a lot of you aren't making that decision till at least maybe towards the end of April. But again, kind of keeping it undercover for the time being, because you need to focus on your stability at this time. So, Libra, that is your reading for the last half of April. I hope that you found it helpful and insightful. Um, Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. If any of these readings do resonate with you and you'd like to reach out for a personal reading or information on that, just click on the description link below, click on the little arrow that pulls down information. You'll see my contact details there. Always feel free to contact me at Maggie, the number one McGuire at gmail.com. I would be delighted to work with you. I will see you all again in a couple of weeks for the May 2020 general readings. Until then, please, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, stay as sane as you can. And I look forward to seeing you back here again soon. Take care. Bye bye.